Hey there, welcome to episode 99 of the FFS Talk audio program. I am your host, Dan Hugo. We are recording this at 7:05 a.m. Pacific time on Thursday, October 16, 2025. It is Thursday. We normally publish on Thursdays. It works out nicely. The sun is rising here in Vegas. I don't even know if it's going to rain today, but the weather is finally cooling, which is nice. If you are not familiar with the FFS Talk audio program, let me tell you, it is designed to be a conversation, a discussion, an argument, a debate. Basically, maybe meet in the middle somewhere with a guest or two, maybe, to discuss what works and what does not, and what we might do about it, whatever it is, some topic, some area of concern. I will say, this being episode 99, we have had approximately 99 episodes thus far of solo audio essay, but I have to be honest, I haven't really been searching for guests. That's tricky to do here in Vegas. It's not impossible, but what we end up with is 99 episodes. Episode 0 was kind of an introduction, but at the end of today's episode, we'll have 99 episodes of different topics that anyone could listen to and say, I have an opinion about that. And then we can have another episode that revisits a particular thing or takes an adjacent turn. Anything is possible. Today's title and topic, Armchair Experts. The internet is lousy with them. By the way, if you're not familiar with the term or the abbreviation FFS, if you've never been to Ireland or hung out with Irish people, well, you're missing out. But it's based on a common, I know it's an Irish expression to be sure, maybe elsewhere. And if you don't know what that is, maybe you should either go to Ireland or hang out with more Irish people. That's about all I have to say about that. So you can hear my the weather change. There's always something that challenges my ability to speak into a microphone. So we'll see if I can make it. I will thank you in advance for putting up with my wavering voice. Hopefully, wherever you found this audio program, whether it's on YouTube or Apple Podcasts or Amazon Podcasts or anywhere else, there's probably other places, Spotify, of course. Hopefully, wherever you found it, you're able to locate the episode description, which contains the show notes, including a summary of two sentences, which I will read, and the links for today's episode. As I've been trying to do, I've cut down the shameless self-promotion links in my audio productions to 2 links instead of, it used to be 4. But you can still reach those other links and more if you're willing to click on one of the 2 links I'm going to mention. So with that in mind, let's get started so we can get finished on this lovely Thursday or whenever you're listening. Summary of today's episode. The internet is sometimes lauded as one of the greatest human inventions of all time, connecting every part of the world to every other, and the people and things occupying it so they can communicate with each other. We barely need to go outside anymore, and this is a problem. Allegedly. I just added that part. The links for today's episode and in general. I don't have any bonus episode specific links today. The FFS Talk homepage, ffstalk.com. I'm in the middle this week of rolling out some minor beautification efforts on the way to making actual better websites. I'm not a web designer, but the technical aspects I can do. And so I got danhugo.com looking slightly better. So Quaggling Sand, FFS Talk, Cafe Genius on deck to get some of the same initial setup. Why is this taking so long? Because I'm not a web designer and I have other things I got to do. You're probably not visiting the website anyway, so I'm not going to stress about it too much. My analytics tell me nobody's really there. You're probably, hopefully, all visiting Spotify or Apple Podcasts, whatever. That's where you should be going. But ffstalk.com, homepage, own your online presence. Next, the profile page linking everything. It formerly called the Buy Dan a Coffee. It is the buymeacoffee.com/Dan Hugo profile page. It's a free-form profile page. It's been up for 5 years. It's got links to all of my audio programs, YouTube, Spotify for creators, which then links to Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, and so on. Those links will also be available on the homepage. There's no reason to let Spotify be the interposer in this conversation. So, but you can still visit buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo. You do not have to spend any money there, but you can if you want. There are also affiliate links, keep that in mind, for my favorite coffee beans, for a few other things that I actually use. So there's some biographical information at the top, some other stuff. It's been around for 5 years. It's somewhat reliable. Yes, the Buy Me an Update audio program still gets published there first. And yes, Coffee Solo is also published first on ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com/DanHugo. All of these are linked from that profile page. So that's all I have in the link section. Let's get on with the show. Armchair experts. Let's fill in some more pixels of the big picture. So first of all, I am as guilty as anyone, whether I'm referring to them in this episode or anyone else. I was spending time surfing the internet. Do people still use that expression, surfing? I've been around for a while. I used to work at Netscape. Does anyone know what that is? Firefox. To get information, current event updates, and more, preferring this route to, say, tuning into legacy mainstream media like television or reading a newspaper, or going places in the physical world to experience certain things live and in person. For example, I live in the city of Las Vegas. I live in the actual city of Las Vegas. I could head downtown or to the unincorporated part of the area, Clark County, often referred to as the Vegas Strip. I could head to the Strip. It would take me about 40 minutes to get there. 20 minutes to downtown, another 20 to get onto the Strip somewhere, or wherever else. I can go pretty much anywhere in Vegas. I can go to Vegas because I'm already there and experience in person many of the things that I actually choose to follow online instead. This constrains my perspective and the scope of my information to whatever is provided by the sources I consume. And the same goes for any other place, event, or whatever else is online. So rather than wandering around downtown on Fremont, under the Fremont Street Experience, the Aviva Vision, in case you didn't know what that was called, the canopy of display that is often brightly entertaining the pedestrians on Fremont. Instead of going down there, I can just watch a show like Not Leaving Las Vegas, or Jacob's Life in Vegas, or Norma Helly, or the list goes on and on. So I can view my city where I currently live through the eyes, or more likely the iPhone camera, of any number of people who kind of do that for me. But I only get to see what they show me on any given for any given episode of their particular show on YouTube, of course. So you kind of trade off pro action versus, well, I can be an armchair observer. That kind of works. I have produced a few episodes of this audio program around this topic in general. So this is another brick in that wall, another piece of that puzzle, which is taking some sort of shape. We are beginning to know what it might be, what that picture is. The big picture, in fact, is about this global communication network connecting people and what they talk about, how they use it, what works and what may not. That's not the only thing we talk about, but it's kind of a culmination of these various facets. And of course, what we might do about it, that is the nature of this program. Though who is we in this case? Talk about an immovable force, the population of internet users, the vast majority of whom are not listening and thus are not we in this context. There is a difference between expressing an opinion, as I am doing here and as I do in all of these episodes of this program, and purporting to report on news as a journalist or traditional reporter, or provide some other service, possibly one offered as though it were from an expert in some field. An audio essay is expression of ideas, again, which I'm doing right now. Hopefully we have no quarrel with that notion 99% of the time, including this one. I'm not trying to coerce or harm anyone. I'm not inciting anything bad. So sometimes there can be problems, but not here. We can leave that there for now. Buy if you consume only content of, what am I saying here? Have no quarrel with the notion 99% of the time, including this one, but there you go. Well, typo. That's why I knew we weren't buying anything. Are you buying what I'm selling? But if you consume only content of some kind with the expectation that what you are watching, listening to, reading, whatever the case, is as advertised, how do you know? And what should you or we expect from the producers of that stuff as far as a disclosure of some sort, or even simpler, their behavior? What are they doing for us, or what are they not doing? So how about some examples before we run down the usual what works and what doesn't? And the number of examples is vast. You probably have your own. Everybody has encountered some variation of all these things and more. These are only examples. The current state of affairs in the United States concerning the current administration, the executive branch of our government, if it still exists, and some actions that appear to be maybe unconstitutional or troubling, maybe both, and so on, make for a lot of content creation possibilities every hour of the day. And some people actually take advantage of that, which is crazy. But hey, if you got time to watch, they got time to feed you another video. I'm thinking YouTube, but it applies to TikTok and Instagram Reels and whatever else. What we are seeing more and more often now that so-called independent media producers are really catching on across the political spectrum, or is it spectra? Not sure. Maybe there's more than one. 2 dimensions, at least, is solo producers. Maybe they have a video editor, but usually it's one person on camera or on a mic. I'm on a microphone right now, no cameras, but I have a camera. I could turn it on someday. One of these days we'll make video stuff, perhaps, if we have an actual discussion. But also doing the research and analysis. It's usually a one-person effort. Thus, it is really easy to create content around reading a tweet or a bleat or whatever, a toot. People should be using ActivityPub anyway, or an Instagram post, or some reporting by some other independent media creator, or even real, put that in quotes, real media productions by reading or replaying such content, and then commenting on what we might call editorialized fashion in what we might call editorial. So basically you're commenting on the reporting, not necessarily, hopefully there's some commenting on the actual events, but sometimes it will be on the way it's reported or some aspect. I see this all the time. People, they want to tell us, you can see I'm home instead of in my usual studio, but I had to make a video about this thing. Look at what that person's wearing while this is, they'll go off a little bit on quote unquote reporting to make human. Now this humanizes their comments. So they're making human comments, human observations, maybe, wardrobe shaming or something. So it's not entirely, let's say, professional, or there's maybe the journalistic integrity, not at 100%, not at the F on the gauge. And that's for news reporting. It could be a lot of other scenarios where someone just has to engage with their audience, and what they have to say may not be fully formed. It may not be completely thought out. Any number of variations. So we could be editorializing, and we are calling this news or news reporting, and that can be problematic. You're reacting. You're giving your opinion. You're editorializing. You may be talking about the news, but you're not reporting the news. And while everyone has biases, you're usually putting that on a level playing field with the actual quote unquote reporting. And this is something to be aware of. This next example is anecdotal, but I know a professional, very experienced and talented kitchen designer. That is a simplification, but we can work with it for now. If you've listened to my other programs, you probably know who I'm talking about, but in general, this person has for decades provided in-person direct consulting, a sort of co-creation exercise with each client in pursuit of a lovely kitchen, a highly functional and attractive kitchen workspace. And it could be bathrooms, it could be other parts of a home, could even be a mortuary workroom. True story. They want to arrive at a satisfying and valued outcome. Today's competitors in this space so I'm told, are inclined to avoid in-person contact, avoid in-person visits to suppliers and other vendors to view samples and whatnot. The human factor, if you will, is replaced with Zoom call and email or equivalents. Surely there are other examples of this that you can think of in your own travels, where virtual engagement has become the norm. I don't want to deal with the actual customer, client. We can just work online or email, or you can send me a message on platform of choice. Your consultant or service provider or whomever is remaining in their armchair equivalent, whatever that is. Have you ever tried to get support from Google? Yeah, I'll pause, let you roll your eyes. Ever dealt with most big company customer support services, and now more and more often, less big company customer support services? You know, right? Even one-person companies can have outsourced support services, or they basically want to spend as little time as possible going off the script or having to deal with problems. This is the real world, however, so you still have to. But if you are not having if you're a one-person company, or if you're a one-person content creator, you bear all the responsibility for the product or the service that you're providing. I don't know if people think that through all the time, but it is something to be aware of as a consumer or an audience member of how this is working and what you are consuming or making use of. The obvious newcomer to all this mix, the AI armchair. Now, not only is it preferable to maintain virtual contact as preferred to in-person, hands-on human interaction, but expertise may be replaced or supplanted with generative AI. So why should I talk to someone if I can have AI do it? Why should I write that email if I can have AI write it for me? Why should I make my website? Why should I write that article? Why should I write that book? Make that movie. Solve that problem. Here we are only at the tip of the iceberg, of course, right now. But how many YouTube videos have you come across with a wonky script and a computer-generated voice mispronouncing words in different ways? That's my my fail-safe, is if you're ever thinking, is this this doesn't sound like a person, this sounds like, and they pronounce words. You're like, wait, that's the third different variation of pronunciation for the same word. Yeah, that's a tell right there. There's no arguing that one. So we're only at the tip of the iceberg, though. It's only going to get worse. So if you've been watching YouTube or to some extent on other platforms, the computer-generated voice and animator-generated content, or maybe some real clips of actual video and of actual real things, actual video or still pictures, whatever else would be interesting to support the notion, the content subject. There's probably some human editing in there. But these generated articles as well, including non-peer-reviewed scientific articles, that's troubling. Generated books, generated audiobooks, and the list goes on. There's more and more, sometimes called AI slop. Who knows what artificial intelligence is handing us, and we're just taking it. This can apply to other examples, and more often as time passes, more examples. With OpenAI now announcing, like literally earlier this week, so today's October 16th, so 13th or something. OpenAI now announcing the obvious, that they will have an adult chat product for verified adults to use and abuse, perhaps, who knows. We are probably only just scratching that surface, and maybe not in a good way. Who knows what happens next? I don't think much good will come of that, but if you think people are excited to have AI handle customer service calls, imagine. So what works? What works in this pile that we are trying to climb? As reporting and analysis of current events, human actions and interactions, and the state of the world or some part of it have become less constrained by network news and print media and the players in those spaces and the personalities that are writing and presenting and reporting and so on. Everything's moving online and enabling so many more people with direct knowledge, locality, that is, they are near or even at where it is happening, whatever it is. It is more and more common to come upon valuable perspectives and insights, even from individuals who do not have a research staff or segment producers and so on. Just one person with a perspective and ideas to share. Generally speaking, individuals can communicate their ideas and their knowledge to many very cheaply with actual value derived by some or all of the audience. And the producer can capital, and usually it's that one person, can capital on this with monetization of some kind. So there is an incentive to do this. Later we'll get to how it might be a perverse incentive. But in exchange for putting this effort and developing an audience and being attentive to the quality of the production, the veracity, and so on, the verisimilitude, and this can apply to anything in addition to news reporting. So I'm just using that as a consistent example, but it could be anything you're providing online or providing to your virtual audience that you're not doing in person. So you're able to, theoretically remain seated in your comfy armchair and share your expertise, your knowledge, your perspective, and so on. And that's what the internet has enabled, among other things. Where event locality can be a value advantage in news reporting or generally describing what is happening from a first-person perspective with all the nuance that provides, we can also connect remotely and conduct real business on a one-to-one basis or one-on-one at great distances, so that I might work with you as a client or vice versa, and we need not be in the same country even, someday on the same planet, who knows? So on the one hand, being at or near whatever's happening has value that can be turned into a reliable and credible production of some sort. At the same time, you can make those connections using that same virtual media, the internet, but be very far away. I don't need to have any awareness of where you are in order to conduct some types of business or offer some types of services. Surely the pandemic lockdowns in the 2020 to 2021 timeframe, or maybe it was longer in some places, showed us that this can be valuable, even essential. In some cases, people launched entire new content creator careers because their workplace was closed or worse. Armchair expertise is not necessarily a bad thing, though we could or would want to know this is the case. And during that time, it was fairly obvious. The odds were that during the pandemic lockdowns, you were interacting with someone who was stuck at home like you were. Not that you couldn't go outside. I went outside all the time, but yeah, we all had a similar context. And that's probably one of the things that we'll talk about. What does not work when we don't all have the same context. Obviously, sticking with the examples, generative AI has been doing some really interesting and maybe useful things for we humans, like generating podcast cover art, which I do all the time. I have no artistic abilities. Or summarizing documents, enabling interaction with documents in whatever form so that someone might ask a question that some AI model might be able to answer through inference from the documents on which it's been trained and its other training data, and so on. So I can take an existing model and I can augment it with my own training content and some other things, every day is a new adventure with AI. So essentially you're enabling an experience that can adapt to an individual's needs in the form of that interaction that is a little bit more than a conditional or a pre-programmed tree of knowledge, a tree of responses, like a hierarchy. Like if you've ever done a phone menu, right? You have to account for those all early, right? If you want to talk to this person, press 1. If you want to do this, press 2, and so on. The advent of AI has enabled more of a tell me what you want and we'll figure out who you want to talk to. So you don't have to decide on a 1 or a 2. Sometimes it's hit or miss. Time will tell if this all works out or if we all get turned into paper clips or something. Who knows? By now, we have all heard of the Turing test, of course, which has some caveats as it applies to this stuff today. But, generally, if you can't tell you're talking to an AI or interacting with an AI, then maybe it's working. But basically, we should probably know that we are interacting with an AI model of some sort so that we have a chance at understanding what we should be looking for outside of our expectations. In other words, if a human tells us something, we kind of know, okay, well, this is another human. We have similar expectations in life and so on. And I know that's being overly optimistic. But an AI is trained to tell you in a way that will please you, that will satisfy you. In most cases, it will try to make you feel good about trusting the answer. And that's just it's the nature of the model and the programming is to to be convincing, or that seems to be the way they move. I literally, while I was writing some of this, was watching an interview with an AI expert, which I'll talk about at some point. Not that interview, but just the notion in general. And this was one of the concerns, was that AI models are tending to be trained and over time develop additionally to be appealing. So how do you become appealing? You convince the person that's interacting with an AI model that it's trustworthy, that it's trying to help you, that it's telling you things you want to know about, it's being accurate and pretending to be. These are things that we will learn as a society over time, I hope. What does not work? And this might be the area where people would say, oh, I don't agree with that. I would like to continue this conversation in another episode. As I suggested in the first example, reporting news is now something we should be putting air quotes around, because everybody is now a reporter. Does that mean nobody is? When everybody is a reporter, nobody is. I worked at the online left-leaning, that's putting it mildly, magazine, salon.com, many years ago, on a new feature at the time, which was essentially user comments. This was a while ago, so user comments were not like the de facto norm, standard expectation. And the professional writers, the people who were actually writing the real articles that were published in the magazine, it was a 10-year-old publication at the time I joined them for a period of time. The professional writers were initially concerned, even angry, that normal people, who knows who these people are, would be able to place words and opinions of unknown provenance next to their own. In other words, an article written by a professional who's done research and spent time on crafting an accurate and useful piece of content would now be on a level playing field with some random person who just said, no, I disagree, or whatever, right? So suddenly they're all given similar, I don't know about equal, but similar levels of credibility by the casual reader. That was their concern. Put simply, they were right. They were right to be concerned. At the time, we who were developing this and some of the other people on the staff were like, oh no, it's better to include people in the conversation. But the professional writers were really kind of all on the same page with that one. And I think they were right to be concerned. I still laugh about it to this day. It is far too easy now for any content creator to present as credible and even knowledgeable with perverse incentives in the form of monetization and algorithmic advantage, maybe other perverse incentives, not to mention fandom of some sort, so that some audience will develop around a creator which will accept whatever is offered, right? So a combination of, if I do what my audience wants, audience capture and all that, I will make more money. We can already see where this may go in unexpected directions with regard to politics, elections, public health, food safety, and that list goes on. It's such a popular show. The host must be correct. He must have my best interests. So it's always something to think about. Maybe we'll even touch on that in the next section. There are some interactions that might actually be better in person, at least some of the time. The kitchen designer interaction I mentioned is one lightweight example, depending perhaps on how much nuance a customer might accept as possible through personal interactions with a designer with whom they would work directly and pick up on things I hadn't thought of. Visiting the space, taking measurements, having a discussion about how they want to use what they're trying to accomplish in the remodel or similar. Visiting those suppliers and the vendors and working through choices, colors, materials, brands, heights of things, placement, and so on. Imagine, though, any virtual interaction where you come away feeling less than pleased with the outcome. Often customer support services are outsourced so that the person, or is it a person at all, you spend your time trying to work with is ultimately not knowledgeable and perhaps apathetic. Sounds like the voice of recent and ongoing experiences from yours truly, Amazon. And that's only the tip of that iceberg. With a platitude-laden script in front of them, they don't really care. Oh, I'm so glad you've come. Allow me to help you. I understand where you're coming from. Now, reflect on virtualized mental health and physical wellness services, and surely there will be more expert-level offerings into the future available from your own armchair they and theirs? Do you know at all where these are coming from? Or can you rely completely on what you see on a screen or hear in your earbuds? They're just sitting in a chair like you are. Full disclosure, I have a standing desk, so I'm standing right now. With more and more capable generative AI models, we will have to assume some common basis for what capable and more capable might mean. So with more and more capable, who knows? And with more and more interest in using these automated systems in place of humans, which require payment and bathroom breaks and whatnot, unless you work at Amazon, then get the bottle. We may find, I'm not making fun, workplaces are weird. We may find ourselves uncertain whether we are interacting with a human or something else. If you are familiar with the uncanny valley, where you are interacting with something that appears human, you will often see this in any sort of computer-generated or mechatronic human Hall of Presidents. It's a Small World. Is that a real person? That looks kind of like a real person, but they don't look quite right. They appear human. Something is not quite right. There's always that I'm not sure, which makes us feel like something is off, maybe bringing some actual discomfort. It's probably like an evolutionary biology adaptation, or that looks like something I should understand, but there's something that's warning me to be cautious. Not really sure. Let us assume there's a desire to minimize that feeling, to make more and more realistic, but yet artificial beings. They sure look human. With CES coming up here in Vegas, I have to imagine there will be dead ringers wandering around. Is that a person? There's always something, though. There's always some uncanny valley in there. They want to convince us that these automated tools are more and more human than human. For instance, what else are we being convinced of? So how much time is being spent convincing you that, oh, no, this is a normal person, and everything they're telling you is totally true and to be trusted? What if they're not an actual human? Well, wait a minute, how much of this is true then? More human than human. Hopefully you know where that's from. Yes, it's also in a song. Are these automated armchair experts actually knowledgeable, or are they really good actors tuned to put on a great show? Whether it's artificial intelligence or just someone who's not totally legitimate. They can hide behind the veil. I don't really know how to design kitchens. I just have ChatGPT do it for me, so I never want to interact with you in person. Will you be able to tell the difference? Last section. What might we do about all of this? That is a good question. Step 1, get in a time machine and go back to the late 1980s when life was simple and those modem tones were music to our ears. Cell phones were out. By the way, AOL just shut down their last dial-up. Can't even dial into AOL anymore. Cell phones were outrageous luxury items. People would get phone numbers with a 1 to make it a long-distance call so they wouldn't pay their per-minute charges. Crazy times. And the old Thomas guides were essential for getting around unfamiliar neighborhoods. Those are paper maps in a spiral-bound book of sorts. So no need to unfold and refold one big map. You can just flip through a book. Look at grid numbers and, I'm going from page 4 to page 8. Barring that, the internet is here to stay. There's really no changing it. That immovable object that is, or is it a irresistible force? Anyway, you're not going to change the internet. It's changing you. So the perverse incentives and better generative automation are also going to be challenges. So we are going to have to be entirely defensive. Unfortunately, it's all me, it's all you. Going it alone, you and I are going to have to become much, much more adept at detecting anything that is incentivized outside of our benefit. That is, are we being handed a pig in a poke? Look that up. It's a good expression. Accepting it as is, and then finding ourselves less informed, misled, or otherwise taken advantage of in some way for the sake of money going into someone else's pocket. Just think about it. If someone creates YouTube content with an opinion, not news, they tell you news, they pretend we're reporting on this. They're giving you their version of it. They're leaving out some details that they don't like. Motivated reasoning supports their position, etc. I see it on the left. I see it on the right. It's a fact of life. Humans have bias. Add to the mix. Ooh, you're going to make more money if you get more audience. Well, then I'm going to tell my audience what they want to hear. I'm going to filter out some of the parts they're not going to like, because they're just going to go listen to somebody else who won't tell them those things. It's a nasty business. So if we're being handed this pig in a poke and we don't know about it, then we continue to believe that I know, I heard about this yesterday. Did you hear about all of it or just the parts that sound better? And again, it's what happens wherever you are on the spectrum. You will find a custom news feed. It'll tell you what you want to hear. This does not mean eschewing your favorite content creators or service providers. If you find value, carry on. However, it is only more important into our futures collectively, but individually as well, to be aware of those perverse incentives, an agenda, bias, which we all have. Be aware of theirs and yours. Of fake it until you make it, a level of knowledge and expertise, and that's beyond the news reporting. That's anything in general. Basically, as my dad used to say about riding a motorcycle on streets and highways, assume everyone in cars or on the internet is trying to kill you and act accordingly. This can be applied here when you really think about it. Any content creator, anybody who's writing or creating a podcast like this one, or creating YouTube content, or offering a service, I hate to be a downer, but just look at what the value proposition is and what you're receiving, what you're giving, what you're receiving. Am I getting what I'm paying for, or am I giving them my time and attention and I'm getting back an agenda? Collectively, on the whole, understanding a value proposition or lack of one may become a more serious version of a net referral score, something like it. Not about how much we enjoy a YouTuber or whether we believe our online tarot card reader or whatever services we're consuming, or who knows, but whether we would recommend these to our friends. Then we kind of own that recommendation. That's the whole theory behind the net referrer score. Though something a bit more consequential perhaps than a plain old, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend this YouTube video or YouTube content creator or whomever, service provider, anybody? How likely are you to recommend this to someone whose future you are concerned about? Suddenly it has a little bit of weight to it, right? It's supposed to. Does it actually? Yeah. Maybe a user-side collective AI tool set of some kind, yet to be developed and trained, of course, maybe, that is specifically constrained to act in our best interest when it comes to evaluating the various virtual interactions we come across every single day. That is very optimistic. Constraining an AI model like this is tricky, if even possible, with questions swirling around about how effective such constraints really are, or even could be. I mentioned that interview I was watching earlier. That was one of the things that came up was, nobody really knows what these tools are doing. Yeah, my voice is fading. Sorry. So it's hard to judge, even on the model developer side, how these things really work. So what are we being fed? What are we consuming? What are we relying on? What do we do about that? So we can look out for each other as humans are wont to do, or they used to be anyway. I don't know about now. But we can do something equivalent in the form of human interaction to the net refer score. You can actually talk to people. You can have a discussion around what is valuable and what is not. I don't mean going on Yelp or Google or writing a review on whatever your favorite review platform might be. You can actually have human interaction and thoughtful contemplation about what we are letting into our heads, or what's getting in there anyway. It's something to consider, maybe. While we're at it, we might consider more human interaction anyway. Put down the phone. Stop relying on armchair experts when you can actually interact with real experts or just normal people, or both. So I've created this episode today, or I wrote it anyway, because I've really, there's no illusion. This has been going on for decades at this point. The boiling frog is not a real thing, but it's an analogy, or it's a meme. What is it? I can't remember the term, but it has emerged to become its own truth. A frog will jump out of water as it becomes hot. That's been researched physically, and that's the way it works. But over time, we've all grown used to I'll just go to YouTube and see. And I've really been finding lately, as more and more quote unquote news is happening every minute of every day, people just gotta jump on. It's like they're putting on. It's like Ready Player One. I don't know if you saw that movie. The book was horrible, to be honest. Ready Player Two was worse. But if you want, like, oh, I got to get into the Oasis to function, and putting on your headsets and all that stuff. So content creators are really eager to get on. I had to get online and make a video about this thing, and then they tell you a story. They'll use, here's a screenshot of the tweet. Like, there are people that actually are creating content. They're creating video segments, like a news segment, about something that someone tweeted on Twitter, now x.com, whatever. I don't know if that's worse than watching that stuff and treating it as though it's actual news. It's gossip. Sometimes it has some value, but these have all become similar on some sort of a weird level playing field, sure, but so everything has become equivalent. So that me telling you about a tweet from someone, and I see this in print or written media as well. Here's a 12-second Instagram reel or TikTok video, or here's a 288 character tweet. I'm gonna write 500 words on it. Crazy. But this is the nature of the beast at this point. And more people are going online to operate a virtual business, to providing virtual services. You don't even know if it's the person that they have on their profile. Is that you? Isn't there an I was gonna say Aeropress, Aerosmith song. What's the song? The video, I should say. It's the video. It's Dude Looks Like a Lady. Sweet Emotion. I can't remember. But at the end, it's not the person that they were imagining on the phone call. Anyway, I'm actually I'm not going to say bothered, but I'm concerned about this stuff. I'm concerned that almost like when people go to Google, remember Google? When Google first launched, I was working at Netscape when Google launched, actually. There were Alta Vista and Yahoo, Dogpile, Jeeves, Lycos. There were more. Search engines were a thing. Now Google made their hay. They became Google because of PageRank and Bigtable and all this stuff. They wanted to provide the most popular response, the one that a random surfer would tend to go to based on how many other people had gone there. Like PageRank was the PageRank Google Juice or whatever they call it. Things have changed since then, but the take home was that Google's search results were better. The page one results, the thing at the top, would be probably, most likely, the best fit as a search result. Now, there's so much junk going on there, but people still tend to go with whatever's at the top. So now they have their AI generated responses. They'll have some paid advertisement, paid placement, and so on. But people are still going with what's presented first, or what appears to be the most popular, most interesting, not necessarily the most correct or credible. So I'm actually, I don't want to seem like I just created this episode to fill some time. This is actually a thing that I'm becoming yet more concerned about. And I think not enough people are. And I'm not trying to spread panic. I'm not a conspiracy theorist in this regard. Yeah, no, I'm not. So, but this is really something that I think would require an earthquake level, like a world-ending event magnitude of contemplation about what am I really consuming. I'll just Google it, and whatever comes up on the first page, that must be the right answer. So the trust and credibility has been handed off to someone else. YouTube has their advertising network. They pay content creators. They incentivize them to build audience and build engagement. Well, how do you do that? By keeping it interesting, by keeping it provocative. Keep it provocative, not necessarily thought-provoking, but make sure people want to come back. I don't know if you ever saw the movie Miss America, the Howard Stern movie based on his book. There's an anecdote. It's in the book, but it's played out in the movie as well. Very brief. Someone at WNBC, I think it was, says, why do people listen to him? They said, however many people listen to him for like 2 hours a day because they want to hear what he's going to say. Or the people that like him listen to a certain amount. They said, well, certainly people have to not like him. And he says, some number of people don't like him. They listen for even longer, Number one reason given, they want to hear what he's going to say. So you can feed people all they want, but what are you telling them? And what are you hearing? Anyway, I'll leave it there for now. Thank you for listening as always. This has been FFS Talk. Don't forget, the entire notion is to have conversations and debates about these things. There are now 99 different episodes of various topics. Some of them are interrelated. Some of them are extended over multiple episodes, but are more closely related. So there you go. My voice has had enough, and you've probably have had enough of it. So I'll leave it there. Thank you. We'll catch you next week. Bye-bye.